I didn't really know what to expect from Universal Studios Japan. I visited the Islands of Adventure and the Universal Studios Park in Orlando many, many times, but not their counterparts both in Hollywood, Singapore, and Japan. So going to a Japan version of a park I visited many times as a child was an interesting experience. The first thing that you will notice about this park is that the only way to get there is pretty much by train. You could drive here, you actually drive right past it from the Osaka airport, but the most convenient and only way to get to the front entrance is by train. Now this was pretty weird for me because typically you drive to an amusement park in the US where I'm from, but I barely recall there even being a parking lot there. I'm sure that there is a parking lot, but it's just not that big of a deal. More people just get there by train. My Japanese place was about 30 minutes from the park by train, so I woke up bright and early at 7:30 to get there for opening at about 8. Now, we were told on the website that the park opened gates at 8:30, but we needed to buy tickets and fight crowds, so we did just that. The train situation was pretty easy. 4 or 5 stops on 2 different trains before being dumped onto the Japanese equivalent of City Walk in Orlando, where you have essentially just a bunch of shops and places to eat. There's a Starbucks, Gap, restaurants, and all sorts of good stuff. I'm not into buying like shopping and stuff, but if you are, then you'll love this little section here. You'll kind of just slowly walk left before getting to the park. What struck me as odd is that the spinning globe that says Universal Studios on it is far, far away from the entrance. Unlike at Universal Studios Orlando, where the globe is basically in front of the park entrance where it should be, here it was to the right. Getting tickets is simple, but the crowd management at this park is well done. I'd like to point out a ticket at this park costs less than Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey, so you're definitely getting a good value. This park is infamous for having large heaps of crowds, and I went on a Saturday in August, so it lived up to that for sure. But there are a lot of people here, but it wasn't as full as it usually got, as the longest line I think was 2.5 hours. So comparably, it wasn't too bad. I mean, I saw some videos online where there would be 3-4 hour lines, so I wasn't too surprised by that. I would just try to go during a weekday and be sure to avoid the national holidays, because that's when it gets completely bonkers. The rides themselves are pretty much clones from other parks, only they are in Japanese. I don't speak the language, but I've been on the Orlando attractions enough to know what they were saying on the rides. In terms of quality, it was pretty much the same. The Harry Potter section definitely lived up to the one in Orlando. As a diehard HP fanatic, I approve. Now, one thing that threw me off in this park was the Minions from Despicable Me, those little yellow people. Now, the obsession with the Minions in Japan is kind of annoying, but at the same time, I kind of love it. What? Minion ice cream, cups, cookies, 3 Minion-themed rides, a Minion Cupcake, yep, an entire section to the Despicable Me franchise, 2 giant stores outfitted with merchandise and gadgets from the movies, and it was just a bit much for me personally, but if you like the Minions and that franchise as a whole, you will be all over this section and park. Now, I wanted to talk about the food situation. I will wait a long time for most coasters, especially if that coaster is a good one. But when it comes to food, I just try and pick the fastest option. Here, the quickest option still had about an hour wait.
Ooh, what doesn't have a line?
And it wasn't the food that I was really looking for. I was thinking that we were waiting in a burger place because it said burgers, but instead we got these Minion sort of ice cream sandwiches.
Okay, para de cookie,
yeah, it was kind of weird. And we also got these ices, but basically it was kind of weird. I wasn't really a fan of it. The food itself was good, but I just wish that they were more clear on what you were getting, and I wish that the shops had more in of themselves. The food stands were pretty interesting too. I didn't get to try all of them. I had a hot dog here too, which was pretty good, I'd say. My friend had this sort of frozen mango on a stick. He said it tasted weird, but I don't know, it was pretty cheap, so I would try that out for sure. The roller coasters here are not numerous, but every single one of them is good by some means. Flying Dinosaur is an intensity machine, and it's one of my favorite coasters, period. It is a reason to come here by its own. The Hollywood Dream and Backdrop is a fun 2-in-1 coaster. Riding in the front is pretty mediocre, but the Backdrop backwards version is an insanely fun experience. Then you have Space Fantasy. Do not pass up Space Fantasy, whatever you do. If you ride in the single rider line, you can basically walk on. There are 2 pre-shows, and it is an indoor VR spinning coaster. I know it sounds like a mouthful, but it is a really fun experience that you really can't get elsewhere. It's awesome. The operations are quick too. Now, I do wish that they had more thrilling rides that weren't coasters, because every time that they seem to try and balance out the park with a thrill ride, it seemed to be with a roller coaster. So I wish that the Nintendo Land brings a thrill ride for everybody that isn't on a track, like a roller coaster. One thing people tend to complain a lot over this park is operations, and like I said, it is infamous for gigantic lines. I thought they did a very good job in handling the lines well, but on every roller coaster except for Space Fantasy, they have this weird policy where you have to put your stuff into a bin about halfway through the line, and then put that bin into an off-ride platform. You also do not get to pick your seat whatsoever. I would rather just pay for a locker. Lockers at this park are free and required on some rides, actually. I'm not sure what made them decide to put some lockers on some rides and then others with this weird system. I actually found the system at Nagashima Spalland as well, so it's definitely a Japanese thing. I was not a fan of it. Also, we thought that using the solo line would get us on the rides quicker. It did for some. On Flying Dinosaur, we ended up waiting longer in the solo than the normal queue. On the raft ride, we dodged a 2-hour wait and basically just walked on, so that was pretty efficient. And then for the other rides, they do a pretty good job of keeping the solo line moving. But again, it's not like a fast lane, like you still have to wait. In terms of location, this park's pretty cool because it's actually surrounded by Osaka City. But they do a really good job with theming and putting up obstructions, so that the only way to see the city is by riding a tall attraction or through the water park, which I didn't go in. So that's pretty neat. All in all, it's a fun place to spend a day, but I for sure did not need or feel like I needed a second day here. Space Fantasy and Flying Dinosaur are both wonderful, and then Backdrop and Forbidden Journey are both amazing as well. If you're in the Osaka area, it is very much worth going to, especially since Nagashima Spalland is only about 3 hours east. So I think if it had better food, it would be an even better park, but that's just my only nitpick. For a final score, I will be giving this park an A-. But as far as merchandise, park experience, rides, and crowd management go, it is very good. I just wish that the food was a little bit better. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. My name is Coaster Cupcake, and I'll catch you all in my future videos. Bye, guys.